Full series recap in 38 minutes. Let's break down the complete Hai Ninh Kong Tram Hai Moi Sao mystery thriller 56 Days. A young woman awkwardly applies makeup in front of a mirror. She keeps repeating the same name under her breath. After putting on a green coat, she rehearses her prepared lines several more times. Before leaving the apartment, she deliberately grabs a canvas tote printed with the logo of the National Aeronautic and Space Administration NASA. She calmly heads to a grocery store. As soon as she walks in, she parts the green coat, revealing a more revealing outfit underneath. She casually picks up a salad. She appears completely indifferent, but she is actually trying to catch the attention of the man reflected in the mirror behind her. Her carefully staged performance work, his eyes and every movement he makes, quickly turn in her direction. Everything she prepared beforehand was designed to make this encounter look accidental. When she steps up to pay, the man deliberately lets her go first. She points out that he grabbed the wrong drink. Judging by the way he cannot take his eyes off her, that brief exchange clearly is not enough for him. Sure enough, after she leaves the store, he is waiting along the route she has to take. Realizing his approach may seem too forward, he quickly explains that he really likes her tote bag. From his reaction, it is obvious that anything involving space fascinates him. After a few minutes of small talk, they introduce themselves. Oliver asks Sierra out for coffee. Sierra simply smiles in response. As they talk, she smoothly recites the entire fake backstory she memorized. Even when Oliver asks about her job, she answers without hesitation. Every detail is nearly flawless. Feeling an immediate connection with Sierra, Oliver goes one step further and asks her to see a movie on Wednesday. When they exchange phone numbers, Oliver suggests meeting at 6:30 that evening, at the bar next to the theater. Once she gets home, Sierra stands before the mirror and practices every gesture again. Across town in his luxury apartment, Oliver stares uneasily at two identification cards bearing two different names. Wednesday night soon arrives. Sierra wears the same green coat, but this time, she has a black leather top underneath. On their second meeting, they talk more openly. Sierra says she has a sister. The two are close, even though their personalities are completely different. Oliver also reveals that he has a younger brother he rarely speaks to. They become so absorbed in conversation that they miss the start of the movie again. Oliver then asks what she thinks about keeping secrets. Sierra is about to answer when his expression suddenly changes. Using a trip to the restroom as an excuse, Oliver calls his therapist. A blonde woman happens to witness the moment he nearly falls apart. Meanwhile, Sierra waits in the lobby and deliberately slips a matchbook bearing the bar's name into her coat pocket. Just then, Oliver's ride arrived. Although they never made it to the movie, he politely escorts Sierra home. Before they part, Oliver gives in and leans down to kiss her. They quickly lose themselves in the moment, but he manages to pull away. Before Sierra can understand what happened, her rideshare arrives. As she gets in, she invites Oliver upstairs. He says he wants to enjoy the nice weather, and declines, choosing to walk home alone. Not long afterward, they meet at the theater again, and finally watch the movie they had planned to see. When the screening ends, Oliver suddenly comes up with an unusual idea. He asks whether Sierra has ever gone skydiving. He takes her to a construction site, where there is a massive industrial fan. Oliver lifts Sierra into the air, letting the powerful wind make her feel as though she is free falling during a skydive. With Oliver holding her securely, Sierra's initial fear gradually turns into excitement. From that moment on, the two become even closer. They return to Oliver's apartment together. When Sierra awakes, it is already midnight. Finding the space beside her empty, she walks barefoot into the living room. Oliver is working out obsessively because he cannot sleep. Sierra quietly watches from behind without interrupting him. She remembers that before their date, she ran into a blonde woman named Jane near the subway entrance. Although Sierra acted indifferent and walked away, she secretly used her phone to take a picture of Jane. The next morning, Oliver is still exhausted after another sleepless night. Sierra prepares to leave by bus. Even after spending an intimate night together, Oliver makes no move to drive her home. The story now returns to the opening scene. 56 days after their first meeting, a figure dressed in dark clothing quietly enters Oliver's apartment. The intruder heads straight for the bathroom and photographs a body so badly damaged that it cannot be identified. Before leaving, the person deliberately triggers the building's fire alarm. The alarm draws the attention of management, and police quickly arrive. Detectives Carl and Lee stare tensely at what remains of the body in the bathtub. Neither of them can hide their concern. In the living room, Lee also finds the green coat and the bar's matchbook inside one of its pockets. Could the body belong to Sierra? If both of them deliberately approached the other, what other secrets were they hiding? The answer comes in the next chapter. To get closer to this wealthy man, Sierra orders an entire set of mood lights online. She spends hours posing for photos in her apartment. Before long, a series of carefully staged images lands on Oliver's phone. Along with them comes an invitation to dinner. The two soon meet at an upscale restaurant. Sierra arrives in a striking pink outfit, while Oliver is already waiting. As she waits, she rests her head on the table, using the cool surface to wake herself up. After greeting Sierra with an intimate kiss, Oliver sits across from her. At first, it looks like an ordinary lunch between two people falling hard for each other. In reality, every line that follows is another way for them to test each other. From the way Sierra studies him, it is clear that Oliver's wealth has captured her attention. After lunch, the server brings the check. When Oliver automatically pays in cash, Sierra asks why he never uses a credit card. Oliver explains that he does not trust the financial system. Every time someone swipes a card, the bank can collect more personal data. Spending habits and movements can all be tracked, and he hates feeling watched. Realizing she has pushed too far, Sierra immediately changes the subject. This time, however, Oliver turns the questions on her. After the night they spent together, he never reached out first. That is because on every social media platform, he could not find anyone named Sierra Wise. The discovery makes Oliver question why she approached him in the first place. Sierra tries to cover herself with a vague explanation, but Oliver is not easily convinced. Eventually, he changes direction and suggests having dinner at Sierra's apartment. Back at the rundown place she rents, she rushes to clean the clutter and hide anything connected to her fake identity. While cleaning, she notices termite damage in the wall. That gives Sierra an idea for how to justify moving into Oliver's home. She deliberately widens the damaged section, then invents a story about the building needing weeks of pest treatment. Once everything is prepared, Sierra picks up her phone and sets an alarm for 8:30 the next morning. With the stage set, the doorbell rings. Sierra warmly welcomes Oliver inside. They quietly eat takeout together. Unable to tolerate the silence, Sierra speaks first. When Oliver does not seem upset, she finally relaxes. After dinner, as they prepare for bed, Sierra suddenly says she needs to use the bathroom. Oliver takes the opportunity to stand and quietly inspect the entire room, because he is clearly searching for proof that she has been lying. As he starts examining a notebook with a red cover, the toilet flushes, and Oliver hurries back to his seat. That night, the two become intimate again. The following morning, Oliver is still there after spending the night, and prepares to leave for work. At that exact moment, the alarm Sierra set in advance suddenly goes off. Sierra pretends to answer a phone call, and says the building needs 3 weeks of pest treatment. She claims she just started working, cannot afford another place, and may even lose her apartment. Her performance feels completely natural. Perhaps the previous night has softened Oliver's defenses. He finally lowers some of his guard, and invites Sierra to move in with him. That was her plan all along, so Sierra happily accepts. The moment Oliver leaves, she opens her laptop, and searches for information about a St. Ledger corporate deal. On the website, a valuation of $16 billion stands out. At the same time, Oliver has just returned to his own apartment. Inside his mailbox, he finds an envelope, addressed to Oliver Street Ledger. This reveals that St. Ledger is his real last name. Although the envelope contains nothing, Oliver is completely rattled by it. He panics so badly that he video calls his therapist, Dan. Oliver tells Dan everything about meeting Sierra, how they got to know each other and became close, but still insists they are not truly in love. Exactly what Oliver is hiding remains unclear. All we know is that to escape his past, he deliberately moved to a city where no one knew him. Acting as his therapist, Dan tells Oliver to do only 2 things: burn the letter and refuse to let Sierra move in. Oliver follows the first instruction and burns it, but his loneliness is stronger than his caution, so he still allows Sierra to move into the apartment. While packing her belongings, Sierra receives an unexpected call from her mother back home. Her mother explains that the bank is about to foreclose on the family house because of an unpaid debt. Soon, both her mother and sister may have nowhere to live. Sierra immediately promises that before the month ends, she will pay the full due Lanham Neen balance. Knowing her daughter's personality, her mother worries that Sierra will go too far. In the end, Sierra moves into Oliver's home exactly as planned. To celebrate, the two become intimate again. Afterward, Sierra pretends to be genuinely interested in Oliver's past. During the conversation, however, she nearly exposes her own cover story. Luckily, Sierra reacts quickly enough to escape suspicion for the moment. To break the awkward tension, she goes to the bathroom for a long soak. When she returns, Sierra lies on the far side of the bed and pretends to sleep. Once Oliver believes she is asleep, he takes out the powerful sedative he prepared. He uses it to force himself into unconsciousness. It is a dangerous way of coping with his insomnia. Only minutes later, Oliver passes out. Sierra, who was only pretending to sleep, opens her eyes. She quietly gets up and enters another room, then retrieves the red notebook from a drawer. Inside are all the details she has collected about Oliver, along with possible safe combinations. Sierra carefully stands in front of the safe and tries each combination one by one. After 3 failed attempts, it remains locked. The story continues in the next chapter. Sierra has told her boyfriend that she has a steady job. Every time Oliver drops her off at work, she kisses him goodbye at the entrance. Sierra then calmly walks into the lobby and smiles at the receptionist. As soon as no one is watching, she turns down a hallway and runs straight out the rear exit. Outside, Sierra removes her fake employee badge, walks to a nearby coffee shop, and sits there killing time. While she waits, she calls Shyla, the sister she has barely spoken to lately. Shyla assumes her sister is drinking in the middle of the day because she is acting so strangely. Only then does Shyla learn that Megan's target for revenge is Oliver. On her way back, Sierra unexpectedly receives a call from Oliver. He has decided to pick her up from work and is already waiting in the lobby. Sierra immediately panics. She lies and says that she still has work to finish, then asks Oliver to wait another 15 minutes. The second she hangs up, she runs as fast as she can, cutting across several crowded streets to reach the building's back entrance. But the moment she sees Oliver, she trips and falls directly in front of him. To save his girlfriend from embarrassment, Oliver jokingly shouts that her shoe just exploded. He then lifts Sierra into his arms and carries her away. From the outside, they look like a perfectly happy couple. To thank Oliver for rescuing her from the awkward moment, Sierra offers to cook dinner. Oliver jokes that he cannot let a guest work in the kitchen. He tells her to change clothes and wait for the meal. While dinner is being prepared, Sierra goes into the bathroom to change. When she suddenly hears the door open, her hand freezes as she removes an earring. That same earring will later be found in the bathtub beside the body. Oliver has stepped outside to retrieve another letter from the mysterious sender. This time, there is a slip of paper inside, with a phone number written on it. Panicking, Oliver tries calling the number, but the moment it begins to ring, he loses his nerve and quickly hangs up. With his mind in chaos, Oliver returns home and carelessly burns his hand on the hot pan. With dinner ruined, he suggests that they go out for Thai food instead. Sierra, however, is more interested in the bank letter lying nearby. After everything that has happened, Oliver's insomnia becomes even worse. He stays awake for 3 straight nights. By the morning of the 4th day, on his way to work, Oliver begins to hallucinate. He becomes convinced that a blue car is following him everywhere. Terrified, Oliver rushes to see Dan. Dan gives him a piece of medicated chocolate, claiming it will calm his anxiety. Once his mind settles, Oliver may finally be able to sleep. Meanwhile, Sierra uses Oliver's absence to dig through the trash, searching for the bank letter she noticed the day before. Her actions are both reckless and calculated. Using only the information printed on the letter, she impersonates Oliver's mother and calls the firm that manages the family trust. Sierra answers the security questions, passes the identity check, and requests an early withdrawal to access the money immediately. She even agrees to pay a penalty. The representative explains, however, that the trust cannot be accessed until the following April. The plan collapses right in front of her, leaving Sierra furious. What she does not know is that the bank sends a customer service text to the phone number attached to the account, which happens to be Oliver's mother's number. That means Sierra's actions could easily be exposed. With the bank route closed, she shifts her attention back to the safe. While watching Oliver one day, Sierra saw the code he used to unlock his phone, and wrote it in the red notebook. Once Oliver leaves the apartment, she takes the code to the safe, and tries again. When the red light comes on, Sierra realizes she has failed once more. Before she can think of another move, Oliver unexpectedly walks in. Sierra immediately redirects the conversation. To erase his suspicion, she pulls him toward the bathroom. How far can a relationship built on lies really go? This is the night drama recap. The story continues in the next chapter. The moment Oliver leaves, Sierra immediately sits down at his computer. She sets the machine to enter sleep mode after 30 minutes, then opens his bookmarked pages. There, Sierra finds his online banking login. She opens the red notebook, and tries the two passwords she recorded. The first one is clearly wrong, but the second works. A verification code is sent to Oliver's email. After entering the 6 digits, Sierra discovers more than $10 million in the account. The sight brings tears to her eyes. Even so, she remains careful. She deletes the email containing the verification code from the inbox, then transfers la Motte Tram Nine to the Narrow River Memorial Fund. She does not empty the account. She chooses this exact amount for a reason. When she confirms the transfer, a notice appears. Because the transaction is so large, the bank says processing will take 10 to 15 business days. Sierra hesitates, knowing the delay could expose the plan. In the end, she goes through with it, firmly clicks confirm, and hopes everything works out. Earlier, Sierra nearly let Oliver catch her beside the safe. Luckily, she used their intimacy to make him temporarily forget his suspicion. After that incident, Sierra deliberately wears one of Oliver's shirts, because his closet and the safe are located in the same area. Now, realizing she cannot open the safe herself, she nearly loses control. Sierra tries to hide her frustration, but another problem appears. Oliver's phone suddenly shows an incoming call from his mother. Fortunately, mother and son are not especially close. Otherwise, Sierra's impersonation during the bank call might already have been exposed. On the surface, Sierra seems interested in her boyfriend's schedule, but she is really trying to learn when he will be away. Once she confirms that Oliver will be busy all day, and cannot return without warning, Sierra puts the next stage of her plan into motion. After submitting the transfer, she calls Shyla, and asks her to check occasionally whether the memorial fund has received the money. Shyla is alarmed and urges her to stop, and get away as quickly as possible from a man suspected of being tied to a killing. But after spending so long preparing, Sierra refuses to walk away, just as the plan is finally producing results. Meanwhile, Oliver is running on a treadmill when he spots a familiar figure. It is Jane, the blonde woman he has been suspicious of. To find out whether she sent the letters, Oliver quietly follows her, and calls the number written inside the envelope. Jane's phone immediately starts ringing. She turns around on instinct, but does not see Oliver. With his suspicion confirmed, Oliver hangs up, and follows Jane in his car. Jane's blue vehicle drives straight into the underground garage beneath Oliver's apartment building. Believing the anonymous sender lives right beside him, Oliver completely loses control. He angrily chases after Jane, but a red sports car suddenly pulls in and blocks his path, causing him to miss the elevator. Looking for somewhere to vent his rage, Oliver grabs a tool from the garage and begins smashing Jane's car. A security employee witnesses the entire incident, but afterward, the relevant camera footage mysteriously disappears. Unaware of what just happened, Sierra brings sushi to Oliver's office so they can have lunch together. Oliver is nowhere to be found. Elliot has also been trying to reach him, while Oliver himself is on a video call with Dan. After learning that Jane lives in the same apartment complex, Oliver completely breaks down. Their conversation confirms that his real name is Oliver Street Ledger. He was directly involved in Paul Sparling's death at Narrow River, and has lived in fear that the past will be exposed. To avoid recognition, he now goes by Oliver Kennedy. Oliver believed that by moving to a distant city, no one would ever recognize him again, but Jane has brought the past directly to his door. After calming Oliver down, Dan once again tells him to leave Sierra. Listening from outside the room, Sierra fears that her path to Oliver's money is about to close. She pushes open the door and interrupts the call. Paul. Even so, she has overestimated her place in Oliver's life. Sierra assumes that as his girlfriend, she can replace Dan as the person who comforts and supports him. Oliver angrily tells her that he has no reason to reveal every secret to a woman he has known for only a few weeks. Sierra continues arguing, and the conversation ends badly. The fight seems to make Oliver even more determined. Still furious, he pounds on Jane's apartment door. Oliver introduces himself as Oliver Kennedy, the building's new resident. Faced with his almost threatening behavior, Jane immediately tries to shut the door. After releasing his anger, Oliver appears to realize that he hurt Sierra. The two apologize and make up. But where will the story go from here? The answer comes in the next chapter. Sierra, who engineered the entire plan to approach Oliver, begins considering whether to abandon her revenge. She and Oliver eat chocolates infused with a mind-altering substance. Before the effects fully take hold, they head together to Boston's St. Patrick's Day celebration. After their earlier argument, their relationship seems stronger than ever. Time continues to pass, and by now, it is day 32 since their first meeting. Sierra is especially happy that day, because the Deux La Motte tram Nine she transferred has finally reached the Narrow River Memorial Fund. After leaving the crowd, they look for somewhere private, but outside a bar, they run into Elliot, Oliver's older boss and mentor. At Elliot's enthusiastic invitation, they decide to join him for a drink, but the moment Oliver sees the two women sitting across from him, his expression immediately changes. One is Allison, Elliot's wife, the other is Jane, the blonde woman who has been making Oliver deeply uneasy. After the introductions, Oliver finally learns that Jane is a journalist. The drug in the chocolate may already be affecting him, or perhaps Oliver simply senses danger. He does not want Sierra to stay, so after only a few words, he tries to leave. By this point, Oliver is beginning to lose touch with reality, but he still respects Sierra's decision to stay. He gets up and goes to the bar to grab her another beer. On the way, Oliver keeps glancing back. His concern quickly proves justified. One answer from Sierra leaves both Jane and Allison stunned. Meanwhile, Oliver watches the three women talking from the bar, and blames Elliot for bringing him here despite knowing the risk. As a longtime friend of Oliver's father, Elliot understands perfectly well that the old case still haunts him. Seeing how shaken Oliver is, Elliot tries to reassure him. While doing so, he places a hand over Oliver's, creating an awkward moment between them. Across the room, Allison and Jane continue discussing Oliver's past. They explain that while living in London, he once had a serious relationship, but when Oliver was preparing to propose, and admitted that he had caused the death of Paul, an old school friend, the woman panicked and left him. From Sierra's expression, they realize Oliver never told her any of this. Sierra still manages to stay composed. She does not press for more details, and she refuses to let them keep humiliating Oliver. Instead, Sierra gets up, heads to the restroom, and calls Shyla, who has been anxiously waiting for news. When her sister confronts her, Sierra admits that she has fallen in love with the man she meant to punish. The full reason behind her revenge, however, has still not been revealed. The sister's phone call ends in tension. Feeling misunderstood, Sierra is about to leave the restroom when she suddenly notices that the blonde woman has been standing outside the door. Jane clearly heard the entire conversation. She demands that Sierra cooperate with her investigation into Oliver's secret. Otherwise, Jane says she will tell the police that Sierra has been running a carefully planned romance scam. Despite Jane's threat, Sierra remains calm. She has spent far too long preparing for this plan. Apparently unwilling to keep pushing, Jane quickly leaves. Oliver is still waiting outside, terrified that Sierra will react like his former girlfriend, and leave after learning about Paul's death. Seeing how unstable Oliver has become, Sierra guides him out of the bar, to a quiet street corner. By now, the substance in the chocolate is hitting him hard. To calm Oliver down, Sierra gives him wireless earbuds, and plays soothing background audio, designed to help him relax. The volume is so high that Oliver can barely hear anything around him. After testing him several times, Sierra confirms that he cannot hear what she is saying. She finally begins confessing everything she has kept hidden. Sierra tells him that since childhood, she has known Oliver was connected to the Narrow River case. Her desire for revenge grew from Paul's death, and the tragedy that destroyed someone in her own family. What hurts Sierra most is realizing that she truly came to know Oliver, and slowly began to understand him. Part of her still hopes hope that Oliver can offer an explanation that makes sense. These conflicting emotions exist because Sierra has genuinely fallen in love with him. When Oliver opens his eyes, Sierra is gone. He panics, calls her repeatedly, and searches everywhere. When he runs into Allison, Oliver thinks he understands what happened. He believes that Allison and Jane kept dragging up his past until Sierra finally abandoned him. In his anger, Oliver makes a shocking accusation. He claims Elliot was once in love with his father, and is now transferring those feelings onto Oliver himself. The accusation deeply wounds Allison. After responding, she storms away in anger. Oliver refuses to let the argument end, and follows her into the street. Moments later, he watches in horror as Allison is struck by a vehicle. Seeing her arm rise on instinct, Oliver freezes in shock. Meanwhile, Sierra returns sadly to the apartment they share, and begins packing all of her belongings. Before leaving, she texts Shyla that she is coming home, but after several minutes of hesitation, Sierra steps out the door, and comes face to face with Oliver returning home. Both of them freeze. The story now cuts back to the investigation. After repeated pressure from Carl, the medical examiner finally confirms that the body in the bathtub is male. Could the victim be Oliver? This is the night drama recap. The story continues in the next chapter. Oliver is horrified to realize that the woman he loves built an entirely false identity. Even now, he remembers how desperate Sierra appeared when she claimed she was being forced out of her apartment and had nowhere else to go. But from the downstairs neighbor, Oliver learns there was never any termite problem. The pest treatment and repairs were completely fabricated. Oliver takes Sierra's employee badge to the front desk of the company where she claimed to work, and asks them to verify it. The receptionist tells him that no one named Sierra has ever worked there. Still refusing to believe it, he shows them a photo of the two together. Oliver admits the name could be fake, but insists her face must at least be familiar. Even then, he receives the same answer, no. Nearly falling apart, Oliver returns to the apartment they once shared. Looking at a photo Sierra left in a drawer, he believes at least some of their time together was real. Although he now knows she lied, Oliver cannot bring himself to hate her completely. He clutches their picture, and painfully remembers the night she suddenly walked away. After learning that Sierra had heard about his connection to a death, Oliver became terrified of losing her, and decided to confess his past. 16 years earlier, Oliver, Shane, and Paul were friends. Despite coming from very different backgrounds, the three boys grew close. That day, Paul, wearing red, mocked Shane's mother, while Shane stood opposite him in a yellow shirt. The two teenagers immediately began fighting. Oliver tried to break it up, but Paul shoved him to the sand. When Oliver got back up, he saw Paul holding Shane underwater, and continuing to attack him. Something inside Oliver snapped. He rushed in, and pulled Shane free, but Oliver then held Paul underwater far longer than necessary. Sierra breaks down in tears. As she listens to his confession, she says only one word. Her reaction is nothing like Oliver expected. He runs after her, desperate to explain, but Sierra refuses to give him the chance. Once again, the secret from his teenage years costs Oliver the person he loved. From the first day Sierra is gone, Oliver cannot stop thinking about her. Overwhelmed by grief, he repeatedly plays the voice messages Sierra once left him. Seeing the green coat she wore when they first met, Oliver becomes lost in memory. With nowhere else to go, Sierra returns to her old apartment, and discovers that Shyla has come from home. From their earlier phone call, Shyla knows her sister has fallen in love with the man tied to Shane's death. Furious, she brings a gun, and plans to confront Oliver herself. Now certain that she truly loves Oliver, Sierra begs Shyla not to hurt him. When Dan's name comes up, Shyla remembers what happened 16 years earlier. After Paul's death, the wealthy St. Ledger family used its influence to protect Oliver, and redirect every suspicion onto Shane. Dan, who had been the school counselor, visited Shane in prison before his appeal process was finished. During that meeting, he planted the idea in Shane's mind that his family could never defeat the St. Ledgers. Dan also convinced Shane that if he died before the appeal ended, the conviction might be erased, and his family could escape the shame. In a state of despair, after being wrongfully convicted and manipulated. Shane, still only a teenager, died by suicide in prison. Shyla has always felt that something about the situation was wrong. Shane had been actively preparing his appeal, but changed completely after Dan's visit, and died soon afterward. Enraged, Shyla went to Dan's office and attacked him. She never realized that Dan was still controlling Oliver under the guise of therapy. After Sierra leaves, Oliver once again falls into endless sleepless nights. Desperate to escape the torment, he uses the powerful sedative Dan has been supplying. As the drug takes effect, Oliver's awareness slowly fades, but on the pillow, he suddenly notices the red notebook Sierra left behind. After seeing all the information she collected about him, Oliver is forced to see her in an entirely different way. He fights to stay conscious, because he still needs to learn the full truth. Oliver staggers into the bathroom, planning to use cold water to keep himself awake. At that exact moment, Dan calls him. What will Sierra choose to do? The answer comes in the final chapter. After one twist after another, 56 Days reaches its conclusion. Megan's decision changes everything. She originally planned to avenge Shane, but ultimately fell in love with the man connected to her brother's tragedy. After Paul died, Oliver drove Shane home. Before parting, the two agreed to keep quiet. Shane would claim he stayed late practicing with the team, and that his injuries came from an accident during practice. Oliver would say he studied at home and went to bed early because of a headache, but Casper used money and influence to redirect every suspicion toward Shane, while Oliver stayed silent because he lacked the courage to confess. Later, Oliver wrote Shane a letter in prison, saying he wanted to tell the judge the truth about Paul's death, but Dan, who had been hired by Casper, intercepted the letter. He never delivered it to Shane. Instead, he exploited the teenager's despair and manipulated him while the appeal was still pending. Oliver did not directly cause Shane's death, but he was part of the cover-up that pushed Shane toward tragedy. From that point on, Oliver lived with crushing guilt. Dan kept the letter, the therapy recordings, and every secret, and used them to control Oliver for years. Now that he loves Megan, Oliver wants to end treatment with the man who has manipulated him for so long. Dan, however, produces Oliver's old confession letter and threatens to hand it over to the police. Oliver is terrified. He believes the rest of his life will remain under Dan's control. At that moment, Megan is listening from inside the apartment. She suddenly strikes Dan with a decorative object. Dan falls to the floor, and soon afterward, dies at the scene. Panicking over what she has done, Megan calls Shyla. Shyla tells her about an older case, with a similar crime scene, which gives them an idea for delaying identification of the victim. After deliberately confusing the scene, Megan and Oliver prepare to flee the country. She meets Shyla one final time, to say goodbye. During that meeting, Megan argues that Shane's death was driven mainly by Dan's manipulation and the St. Ledger family's power, but Oliver's responsibility for Paul and Shane has not disappeared. Megan then takes the money and documents they prepared, and leaves Boston with Oliver under new identities. They settle near a tropical coast, and have a son whom they name Shane. The black-clad intruder who triggered the fire alarm at the beginning was actually the journalist Jane. Police find dark clothing in her apartment, along with the hood she wore when entering the crime scene. The person ultimately steered into becoming a suspect in Dan's death is Linus, Detective Lee's secret lover. Their prohibited relationship, along with Linus' other crimes, places both Lee and Linus under investigation. Carl, Lee's longtime partner, learns her secret, and keeps the necklace Linus dropped. He allows it to become evidence linking Linus to the crime scene. And with that, the series 56 Days comes to an end. Thanks for watching. I am Night Drama. See you in the next story.